I want to welcome all of you guys for joining us tonight. We're so thrilled to have Samantha Downing joining us. This is going to be spoiler free. So if you're in whatever very stage of reading for your own good, we're going to talk about it, but we're not going to give anything away. So don't worry, it's going to be a lot of fun. And still getting people coming on. Okay, so Samantha, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. This is my book, For Your Own Good. So this is my latest novel to come out, which came out on July 20th.
Well, I'm waiting for people to come on. They're still joining. But yes, For Your Own Good. It's so good. It is for your own good that you read For Your Own Good. I have it on my device. I don't have the pretty book, the hardcover, so I can show. So she can hold up her copy. Mine has the glare with it. Okay, we're still admitting people. So sorry. Okay. So Samantha, you were so kind when our friend to the group, Hannah Mary McKinnon, we love her.
Hannah's great.
Endlessly. And I said, you know, Samantha Downing? She goes, yes, I do. And I said, let me just tell you, Samantha Downing is on my list. I have my own little short list of people I want to meet. And I was like, she's on the top of my list. I want to meet her so badly. I said, could you please ask her if she maybe kind of sort of would come visit us? And so she was kind enough to do that. So Hannah, thank you a million times. Thank you. And still got
Hannah's one of the nicest people.
She's lovely. And you know, when I met Hannah, actually I had read her first book, and it was so good. It's Time After Time, and it came out in ebook only, and it was so fantastic. I contacted her, and we became friends from then on, you know, Facebook friends. We keep in touch and everything. So she's a lovely person. And when we started doing the author chats, she was one of the authors I asked to say, hey, you want to come on and visit us? And of course, everybody in the group now loves her because she's just a marvelous human being. So she's fantastic. And her books are terrific. We love her.
Yeah, I'm getting some kind of an echo. Are you?
No.
Okay.
Let's see.
No, it's gone now. I guess
gone?
maybe somebody muted. Okay.
Okay, good. All right. Well, let's dive in.
All right.
For Your Own Good. Why don't you give us the synopsis, because I know you got the authors have it down, because I could certainly do it, but I don't know if I could do it as well as you.
Sure. This is a book that takes place at a private high school called Belmont Academy, where Teddy Crutcher has just been named Teacher of the Year. And he has a very specific criteria for how he grades his students and how he writes their recommendation letters, and it has absolutely nothing to do with merit. So he is very particular about what the students need to learn. He knows what they need to learn, and he just needs everybody to get out of his way, but they don't. And at the beginning of the book, he is talking to one of his students' fathers about a grade that he was given. Zach is the name of the student. And that conversation really sets up the war for Zach, which goes on throughout the whole book. So Zach and Teddy are pretty much the main characters. There are other characters as well. There's several points of view in the book.
It is such a fun roller coaster of a ride. You know, it's a thriller. Yes. I mean, one of our group members said, is it gory? Is it gross? I said, no, it's not gory. I said, it was fun. I mean, if you can call a thriller that, because, you know, those don't typically go together. But there were times I found myself laughing. Okay, I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing at this, but there were funny moments for me.
Yeah, I try to put dark humor in the book. It's supposed to be fun to read, as opposed to very dark or harrowing or depressing. So there's a blend of the thriller. I mean, there are dead bodies in the book, so it is dark in that sense. And Teddy is essentially a psychopath. So there's definitely a lot of darkness in the book, but there's humor as well.
You know, I thought to myself when I was reading it, I thought that Teddy Crutcher was such a fascinating character. And there were some moments where I felt a little compassion for him because he did not come from privilege. This is Belmont is an elite school. You know, it's one of those high school prep schools that, you know, launching pads to get into the Ivies. And he didn't come from that world. So I
No,
found
no, not at all. Yeah.
I found him a bit sympathetic in that respect, you know, that perhaps there is some jealousy motivating him in how he viewed the students.
Definitely. He's works on a teacher's salary, did not go to Belmont, and he teaches kids that drive better cars than he does and wear nicer clothes than he has and have a much more prosperous future than he has. So I think a lot of people could relate to that, or how that the idea that that would make them angry, that these are the kind of kids that he has to teach or that he chooses to teach. So I have had teachers tell me that they completely relate to how Teddy feels. They just don't relate to his actions. They just don't agree with his actions, but they do relate to how he feels about his students and what they need to learn.
I found it especially chilling. Now, I didn't go to a fancy dancy school, private school like Belmont, but I found it very chilling. And I never thought about this before until I read your book. I didn't realize the power that these teachers potentially have for these kids that are trying to get into the Ivies, because the Ivy League schools are just so competitive. And if you've got a teacher that doesn't like you for whatever reason, they could truly ruin your future.
Yes, and Teddy is definitely someone who realizes what kind of power he has and he uses it. It's a very scary thought that teachers could do this. It's one of the reasons I did set it in a private school, because they certainly have more, they don't have the strict lesson plans of public schools. They have more leeway into what they teach. They don't really have to do anything if they don't take public money. So they don't have the same kind of grading rules that a public school would have. So it's a little easier for Teddy to get away with the things that he does in a private school that doesn't have to adhere to that kind of a thing.
Now, as I was reading it, I was remembering my own high school days. And my high school, you know, in Alabama, it was a public school, but the way that the district was drawn, more of the affluent kids went to that school. And of course, we were not affluent. So it was a bit of the haves and the have-nots. So I could identify with that aspect in this book. And then it was so funny because when I got to the end and I was reading that your blurb at the end, that you said that there were some things that inspired you about this book or your own high school experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I think I try to set the book somewhere that people will be familiar with, because I know we're going to get off into topics that people are not familiar with, like killing people. So everybody has a high school experience, and some people have kids that are in high school. So it's something every single person can relate to at some level. And high school is such a pivotal time that it affects us all in different ways, whether it was good or it was bad. It tends to be one of those times in life you have strong feelings about one way or the other.
Who were you in high school?
I was a total not popular dork who got picked on. So the writing about kids like Zach and Courtney, you know, I had a chance to vicariously see what it was like to be a popular kid, because Zach is a very popular student. I was definitely not the popular one.
Now, I was reading another interview with you and you'd said that you were a big reader. Were you always with the books in school?
Oh yeah. Always had my nose in a book, you know, would read at recess and all that kind of thing. So I think you have to be, I mean, writers are readers first and foremost. And if you're not, then you probably shouldn't be a writer. You have to love to read.
Did you start writing early on when you were in school, or was this?
No, not really. Not until actually I got my first computer, which would have been the as a young adult when I had like my first home computer. I don't do anything in longhand at all. And I started writing, and just really as a hobby. I didn't really think of it as a career option. I just did it because I liked it, and I was a big reader. So then I wanted to write my own stories, and I just started getting into it. And it was I found I just liked it. I just liked to sit down at the computer and write and see what I could come up with.
You know, the thing that floored me, because first of all, when I said you're one of the authors I wanted to read, I wanted to meet, you seem to come out of nowhere. And the success that you had with your first book, I mean, home run, My Lovely Wife.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which is being developed into film right now.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's just so huge. And then you followed it up with He Started It, another hit. And then this one, you've only written 3 that have been published, but you had already written 12 novels in 20 years.
Yeah, My Lovely Wife was the 12th. So there were 11 before that. So one way or another, you always pay your dues. However you do it, I spent 20 years writing. And when the moment came that I was in front of an agent, I was good enough, she thought. And she signed me, and she sold the book in 2 days.
Wow.
And I had 20 years of writing behind me. A lot of writers pay their dues because they send out 500 query letters, and they go through the entire rejection process and the revision process and on it. So one way or another, there is no overnight success. It doesn't exist out there. It just appears that way.
So you didn't submit any of any of the other books? That was your first book you submitted?
I didn't even submit it. A friend submitted it for me.
Oh, wow.
So it was it's just a fluke that I even got published, because I wasn't submitting it anywhere.
Now, how did your friend do that?
She had a friend who went to high school with somebody that became an agent in New York. And she sent it to him, and he forwarded it to his friend. And his friend contacted me, and he did not represent this kind of work. He represented nonfiction work. But he said, here, send it to this woman, Barbara, and she does this kind of thing. And I did, and Barbara signed me and sold it in 2 days.
Holy mackerel, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you didn't submit anything prior to that.
I just really didn't see the point. I honestly didn't think it was possible to even get published without either contacts or a degree in writing, or credits being from magazine publications or anything. And I didn't think my stuff was good enough. I really didn't. I thought nobody's going to ever publish this. And
Wow.
So I just did it because I liked it. I was surprised anybody even wanted to publish My Lovely Wife. I didn't even think it was that good. So I guess I'm a perfectionist.
What does it feel like now? I mean, now that you're like the woman of the hour.
Now it's different. Now there's writing is different because there are deadlines. I didn't have deadlines before. Now I actually have to keep a schedule and do the thing. And I used to be able to write a lot more experimentally before. I didn't always write in the thriller genre. I wrote whatever I wanted to write. Now I can't. Now it's thriller. And so that's what I have to come up with. And there's deadlines. So it's definitely, it's not a hobby, it's a job.
Now, did you have for He Started It and For Your Own Good, did you write them from scratch, or did you have them already partially written in those other 11 novels that you'd written?
No, they're all written from scratch. They're written. They're not. Yeah, I don't use any of the old stuff, because some of it is just, like I said, it's not even thrillers, so it doesn't even work. But no, I write everything from scratch every time. Wow. I don't like to go back, because to me, I just want to get better as a writer. So I don't want to go back and use something I did 10 years ago.
It's fascinating to me that you're a pantser, meaning you write by the seat of your pants, and you don't have it all plotted out. Like Hannah Mary, when she came on, she showed us her flow chart. with all the stickies and everything. You're not that person. You're on the opposite end of that.
No way. Yeah, I don't do any of that. That's no way. I have a single Word document and the entire book is in it. And I sit down and I start writing and I go. And I don't know what I'm going to write. I start with a character and a setting. And that's all I know. And I just start writing.
Now,
And it doesn't, and now, I mean, and that's why the deadline process has been difficult for me, because there are a lot of things I start that go nowhere and I have to throw it out. I write 10,000 words and there's no story there, or I don't think it's interesting, or I don't like it, or I'm bored with it. So I throw out far more than I that actually will get published, because I am a pantser, because I don't have plot. When I don't know what's going to happen once I start writing. Like sometimes the ideas just don't come to me, and it doesn't become a book. It doesn't become a whole book.
When you wrote For Your Own Good, you wrote it all in one, by the seat of your pants, just all came to you, right? But how much of it was the story changed any substantially from the editors, or did they just tweak it here and there, and it's just pretty much what you wrote?
This one is pretty much what I wrote. It always requires revisions, because sometimes as I'm writing, I get to a point where something changes and I do have to go back and change the first part of the book. So I do that as I'm drafting, so that by the time I finish the first draft, it's a revised first draft. So I don't write it all the way through and then go back and change it. I change as I go. So I keep track of what's happening at all times. So this one in particular did not require much on the revision. There weren't huge changes. There weren't like characters we threw out or characters we added or what have you. And this is a linear story that it unfolds in a linear way. It doesn't jump back and forth in time very much. There are flashbacks, but not a lot. So we didn't have to rearrange anything because the time frame was already there.
That's remarkable. I mean, really, that's remarkable that you can write that way. I mean, really, that's a gift.
Well, like I said, it doesn't always work. I throw out a lot. So
yeah, but it did work in this case. I mean, and in your other books. I mean, that's a real gift that you have. And like I said, I love the humor in your book. It's just kind of, I felt like there were just kind of these winks at the reader.
Definitely. I like to make fun of things. So I always am making fun of something. And My Lovely Wife, I was definitely making fun of the suburbs and suburban life and the pressure to be so perfect. And he started it. They were siblings on a road trip. And then this one in the private school. So I'm usually always making fun of something.
I actually was amused when I found out one of the things that helped inspire you. I mean, it's not based on it, but inspired you for My Lovely Wife is the story of the woman who was kidnapped by a couple and kept in a box.
Mm-hmm.
I know that story. They made it into a movie, but I love watching Investigation Discovery. Do you like watching it?
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the segments that they had done. I don't remember which one of the series it was, but about the girl in the box, and it freaked me out.
Yeah,
stuff up.
Very unusual story, because most of the time when you hear about girls being held captive, it's almost always just by a man that does it. You rarely hear about women that do it, or women and men together. It's not as common because women don't tend to do that kind of thing. I don't think there's ever been a case that I know of a woman holding some man captive in her basement. Just a woman, not a couple, just a woman. Women just don't do that. It's a whole different psychology that it requires to do that. So I was kind of trying to figure out if a woman did do that, who would she be? And created the character of Millicent in that book.
Well, like I said, that one is getting developed by Amazon Studios into a major feature film. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. Is Nicole Kidman going to star in it? Or I know that her production company acquired the rights for it.
Yeah, Amazon and her production company partnered on that. And they have not made any casting announcements, so I don't know if she plans to be in it or not.
Okay. And then For Your Own Good, I'm very excited that that's going to be developed into a series on HBO Max. Listen, I cheered when I found that out. I was so excited because I can totally see it as you know, a limited series, because I really felt something for each of the characters, because like I said, I think that you did such a great job of creating them. And I always tell the group, I said, if I can walk away, if I can put down the book and do my thing and still worry about the characters, then the author did a good job. And after I finished this one, I had to remind myself that they're not real people. You don't have to worry about them. They're not real. But that one's going to be developed by Robert Downey Jr. I think we've heard of him. And Greg Berlanti.
Great. Yeah, he made You on Netflix, and he made The Flight Attendant on HBO Max. He's done a lot of TV. He also did a bunch of the DC comic shows that are on TV. So he's a very prolific television producer. So they have partnered on that, and I can't wait to watch it.
Now,
I really want to see what they come up with.
Do you have any involvement in the development, or is it kind of like they just take it?
I'm a consulting producer, but I'm not the script writer, the screenwriter. So the first step is to write the script. That's the first thing they have to do, is get the showrunner, and the screenwriters, and write the script. And from there, I believe the process is that's when they can start saying, okay, who's going to direct it? We have to cast it, because they don't send the book out to actors to read. They send the script out for them to read. So I don't know how much I'll be involved. I've heard of authors that are very involved and authors that aren't involved at all. So I don't know what they're going to call me for to consult on until they do it.
Now, are you going to be okay with them taking it apart and doing whatever with it? Or is it going to be one of these things where you're like, no, don't do it like that?
No, I mean, and you kind of have to be. So I think it's okay. I mean, they liked the book the way it was. They liked the characters the way they are. I don't know. I think in putting it on TV, it's just a matter of which scenes they keep and which scenes they throw out, and what they might add. They might add things that don't even exist in the book. And I don't know. I'm okay with it. Hopefully, I mean, if it's good, I'll be really okay with it. Then it'll be good. So they might do it better. They might have way better ideas than me. So who knows?
We had CJ Box on earlier this year, and his show that's on TV, drawing a blank on it, the Big Sky.
Yep.
Which is fantastic, and that was 20 years in the making, because it'd been acquired, and so he said, I had no idea how it was going to go, and he actually just enjoyed just sitting back and just watching to see what they do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Some authors are like that. They're not involved at all. And then like Gillian Flynn was really involved with Sharp Objects on HBO. And I think she was writing or co-writing or doing something. So some authors are really involved in things. I guess it just depends on whether they are screenwriters and how much they want to be involved. But I have nothing to say about casting. I have no control over casting. So I have no idea who they'll pick for these roles.
But at least hopefully you'll be able to, you'll get to meet Robert Downey Jr.
I would hope, I hope so. Maybe I get to go to the premiere. I don't know if they have premieres for TV shows.
Sometimes they do.
They might. If it's HBO, they might, yeah.
No, regardless, that should be in the contract that you're able to meet him. All right, well, let's take some questions from attendees, okay? Let's see. So you guys, at the bottom, you'll see on the bottom of your screen, the chat button. Let's submit some questions and comments for Samantha, okay? All right, Carol D, raise your hand, wave, so that way Samantha can see you. Let's see, she says, we have at least 2 to 3 people signed. Oh, 2 times, oh, never mind, that's a wrong thing. Okay, Emily, raise your hand. Emily says, I finished the audio version of For Your Own Good on Friday and loved it. Yay, Emily.
Thank you. Yeah, that is the narrator of it is David Patu, who is the same man that narrated My Lovely Wife. And he's a big audiobook narrator. And so he's great. He was great for My Lovely Wife, and he was perfect for this one as well.
That's wonderful. I have a hard time with audiobooks because my mind starts to wander, and then and so when I just joined Audible, and so I'm looking to say, okay, which ones do I actually want to read versus the one I want to listen to on somebody else narrate. I don't think I could listen to one of your books narrating because I enjoy reading it so much.
Actually, if you're an Audible member, I have an Audible short on there, an original short called Sleeping Dogs Lie, which is just a 2-hour novella on Audible that's available as well. So it's free if you're a member.
Very good. Well, that's a good reason to join. But yes, your books I just want to read in my hands because I love the experience of it. All right. This one's from Chris. Chris says she wants to know, raise your hand. She says, do you have a favorite book? And what is your favorite book that you've read this year?
I have probably a list of favorite books. My brother is in the chat. He's just popping up a question there. I see. That's my brother Linus. So my favorite book of all time, I would say, is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. That's definitely actually that book has an unnamed narrator and was a definite inspiration in having an unnamed narrator in My Lovely Wife. The husband narrates that book and we do not know his name. So that would be, I'd say, my favorite all-time book. My favorite book that I've read this year, I think the latest one by Caroline Kepnes, You Love Me. I love the You series. I love Joe. I love the books. I love the TV show because he's a psychopath. So I have to love him.
All right, and this one is let's see, Bridget, see here, Bridget wants to know, what other genres were you writing before?
I wrote a little bit of everything. I think I wrote like a coming of age story. I tried literary. I did horror. Probably, maybe, I don't think I ever really did romance, like a classic type of romance. And I never did historical, but they were all pretty much set in modern day. But I jumped around a lot, so I just wrote whatever I felt like it, really.
And your brother's name is it pronounced Linus?
Linus.
Okay, wonderful. Here's his question, and we covered a lot of this, but maybe there's some things that we didn't. He says, so as your brother, I read the early version and I just received a hardcover of For Your Own Good. What a good brother. Are there many changes made from first draft to finished copy? I don't think I got to ask a chance to ask.
There are some changes. I can't remember the version that you read, Linus, my brother. So I don't know how dramatic they were. There was a change in the ending, so you may have read a different ending. So you could flip to the back and read the last chapter if you want.
Well, of course, if he's a supportive brother, he'll reread the book.
Of course he will. I'm sure he will.
Now, I saw somewhere that you said that your whole family growing up loved thrillers too, right?
Yeah, that just seemed to be the genre that everybody read. So they were always around the house. The John Grishams, the Michael Crichtons, Clive Cussler, they just always seemed to be around. And so on the bookshelves, and people passed them around and read them, like the latest John Grisham or whatever. So I kind of grew up reading them. And then there weren't too many female authors at the time that we had around the house, at least not like, we never had anything really like the Agatha Christie's. It probably was not until Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl when the domestic thrillers really exploded. And now there's so many female writers, and it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, My Lovely Wife would probably not have been published if not for Gone Girl, if not for that explosion of that genre that people are still reading. I don't know that publishers would have even been looking for something like that.
You know, it's funny, and thank you so much for bringing that up, because that was something I wanted to ask you. I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about other authors, and it just seems to me that lately that female authors are really getting their dues. I'm so excited. And seeing the success that you're having, it just makes me, I'm so proud. I'm just so happy. I get so excited when I see people succeeding. They all know this. They say I'm like I get very excited. But it's wonderful. You know, it's kind of like Julia Quinn. She wrote the Bridgerton series, 20-something years ago. And now she is, also the woman of the hour. And now it's bringing legitimacy to the romance genre. And so, Hollywood is frantically, looking for more material from other authors. And of course, same thing with the thrillers, like the Gillian Flynn's of this world. So I'm just so happy to see that the female authors are just really getting their accolades.
Yeah, and they're really putting out books that people want to read. I mean, there's an audience for them. There's a huge audience for these kind of thrillers that have more of a focus on relationships and family and neighborhood things, as opposed to a detective chasing a serial killer, which is a different kind of a book. These type of thrillers are another subgenre of thrillers that weren't really being done before Gone Girl exploded. And then there was Girl on the Train, and then Mary Kubica's Good Girl, and it just kept going, and people just kept buying them, and they still are. So clearly there's a population of people out there that want to read these kind of books, and they're predominantly written by women.
I think, and of course, this is a little bit biased, but I think that women are so much better at being able to get into the minds of people with their relationships and the motives, especially women dealing with other women, and in the domestic thriller. Because I think, and of course, I don't have children, but if I did, something dealing with my kids would be something that would cause anxiety. So when I look at the new batch of thrillers that are coming out, I'll see a lot of them dealing with kids disappearing or things like that. So I think it makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I think women also focus more on the effects that these crimes have on people, and how it affects them, and how it affects their relationship and their trust. And so you see really how a crime ripples out into people's lives, even if you aren't the one that's directly affected.
Wonderful. Now, guys, if you have questions, remember, go ahead and submit them. So, because I want to make sure I get your questions or comments for Samantha, okay? All right, let's see. Does somebody have some? Okay, wanted to ask you something else. Oh, I got I got a kick when I read, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name, your agent, Barbara, is it
Poel?
Okay, good. Got
like
it right.
Noel, but Poel.
That's what I guessed. I thought, well, let me just check. I thought it was hilarious when she said, or somebody said that. Well, no, she asked you how you're able to write this, and you said that you were sick and disturbed.
Yeah, well, I think you have to be a little bit. My books tend to have at least one of the points of view from the bad guy, quote unquote, or the psychopath doing the killing or something. So yeah, I mean, you got to be a little off, I think. I don't know. What does my brother have to say about that? Since he's here, I'm sure he has a lot to say about it.
Is he your older brother or younger brother?
Oh, he's older.
Oh, so he knew you from birth.
Yeah.
Linus, you want to weigh in and tell some tales? Jessica Peck, she says she wants to know, what are you working on now? Anything you can share?
No, my next book, which is another thriller, but that's about all I can say right now. I don't have any other details.
When should it be released?
I don't have the release date yet. I don't have, it's being worked on. That's what I know.
All right. So until then, we'll have to make sure you read all 3 of the books and then reread them.
And I will mention this cover if you can't see it, for anybody who hasn't actually seen it. The cover is amazing. It has a painting on it with a very fancy frame, a fancy painting with a fancy frame, and then it has graffiti on top of it, which is the title. And it's fantastic because it really captures the sort of fanciness of the school, but then the sort of graffiti / chalk look of the lettering, which kind of, you know, something's amiss at the school, clearly, with their spray painting the paintings.
Whoever does your covers does such an amazing job. Of the 3 covers, my favorite one is He Started It.
With the shovel.
It's the shovel. I said, when I saw it, when I got the advanced copy, I was like, oh my God, I got to read this book just from the cover alone. I love it. Because, you know, it's kind of reminiscent of in Hollywood, you know, where the lead character lights something, blows it up, and then they slowly walk away, you know, without flinching when something explodes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dream, isn't it? To be able to do something like that and have your hair all blowing in slow-mo and stuff.
And then you don't look and you don't look back. Yeah, that's what we thought when we saw that cover. They look like a movie poster. It had that movie poster feel to it. And what they normally do, the Berkeley graphic department does these, and they usually send me 2 covers and ask me which one I like best. And so far we've all pretty much chosen the same one. We've never had a dispute of me liking one and them liking another. So it always seems to come down to the same one. So it's been pretty easy as far as covers go.
You know, you're in the big time when they ask your input on covers.
Well, it doesn't mean, see, but if we had a dispute, they would win. So you're really a big deal if you get to win.
Carol D says, that's why she's enjoying your book, because you have really developed an interesting character and not just your typical serial killer.
Yeah, Teddy is unique. So people seem to identify really strongly with Teddy, and they love him, they hate him, they love to read him, but they hate him, but he's funny.
Yeah, he's a great character. And, you know, really this book, which I thought was so interesting is that, and I always tell the group, I say, you know, a lot of the thrillers and mysteries I can usually figure out, you know, pretty early on, probably because I watch so much crime. But yours had so many cool twists and turns, and to me, it was so unique. It was such a unique story. And that's another reason that I just really loved it, because I was surprised. The whole time I was surprised. It was great. Linus is weighing in again. The brother is weighing in. Okay, he says, if I knew how twisted her mind was, I would have been nicer to her growing up. Now, Linus, you better be nice, because, you know, she could write you in the next novel. That's the downside to authors, is you could end up being in the book either for the good or bad.
Yeah, no, he was in He Started It.
Ooh.
He knows that. He was the brother, and he started it. So but yeah, I write people in my books all the time. They don't always know. But I don't tell them.
Well, especially if you kill them off.
Exactly. But in my mind, I know who they are, even if they won't, even if they're not recognizable.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it.
Let's see. Carol says she has all 3 and didn't know they were from you. So that's great. So Carol's already read them. Let's see. Oh, Bridget wants to know, what line of work were you interested before you were published?
I had nothing to do with writing whatsoever. I worked at an investment company, and we owned manufacturing companies, actually. So I did a lot of travel to the Midwest. We had manufacturing plants in Wisconsin and Michigan and Ohio, and mostly to do with polymers and plastics, and totally different, had nothing to do with writing at all. So now I don't have to go to the cold, frigid Midwest in the middle of January anymore. So that's good.
So do you get to be a full-time writer now?
Now I do. Yeah. I left my job at the end of 2019, literally right before the pandemic started. So I had been a full-time writer for about 2 months when we went into lockdown. So that
worked out well.
That worked out okay. Yeah.
Now, were you able to, we've talked to some authors and they said that they had some trouble concentrating with what was going on and being able to write. And then we've had some other authors who said, it didn't really affect me that much because I'm at home all the time anyway. Did you find that you wrote more or less during the lockdown?
I wrote about the same, but it was all terrible. It was all thrown out. So I couldn't get a good idea going, or I didn't like the idea, or it was too dark and it wasn't funny anymore. So I couldn't find a groove during that pandemic period, which seems like a huge waste of time because there was nowhere to go. I should have been able to, but maybe I was watching too much news or something. But almost everything I wrote during that, from between March and January, I threw it all out, or it didn't go anywhere. It wasn't even a full book. It was just nothing good happening during that period.
Linus adds, he says, or write me out of it.
No, you're going back in now.
And I just have to say, what a great brother to participate in our call tonight. Because we've had a lot of authors on, and we usually don't have family members. That was really cool. Really,
I could tell you some stories, but I won't.
That's for a separate call. Carol says, I have always wondered if people who write these types of thrillers have terrifying dreams. That's a good question.
Like nightmares? I don't dream of killing people. I don't fantasize about killing people at all. So I guess I get it all. Those bad feelings. Oh, now my mom's here. Look, now we have the whole family.
Here, I saw the last name and I thought, I wonder if she's related. So she could tell on both of y'all.
Yeah, she could. So yeah, I guess I just get it all out in writing, like bad feelings I have towards people or whatever. I don't sit around and think about revenge on real people or anything.
Do you scare yourself when you start writing, like you write something? And because I've had some authors say that sometimes they write stuff and they actually scare themselves, not because of what they came up with, but just as they're writing it, it's just flowing from their fingers.
No,
do you ever have moments like that?
No, it doesn't scare me. The only thing that makes me stop is if I go like too far. So because my books get pretty out there. So there are times when I'm like, ooh, maybe that's a too far off the cliff, or an idea or a phrase or something, and I think maybe that's gonna put a lot of people off if I say that or something, that kind of thing.
Okay, Linus, we got something for Linus. He says, I just love that your family's on the call. This is so sweet. He says, I don't think my sister knows this, but I order a few extra hard copy books to put around in the little free library kiosk to promote the book.
Oh, that's very nice, Linus. Cool. I'm still going to kill you in the next book.
What an awesome brother. Is that your only sibling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Well, that is even cooler, Linus. You're very cool.
Yay, Linus.
Very nice. Bridget says, yesterday morning she asked her 4-year-old how she slept, and she said, good, no nightmare shows last night. Very cute. Very cute. All right, one other question I want to ask you about For Your Own Good is horticulture plays a role in this, a very big role in this book. Did you know about horticulture when you wrote it, or was this something that you researched for the book?
No, it was definitely all researched. I don't have a green thumb. I don't garden and have no desire to garden. So that it's not my thing, but I really had to, since the plants are used, and I had to really study the effects of it and how long things took, so that to make sure I had their time frames right for how long the effects would take place of eating certain plants or whatever, ingesting certain plants. So I did have to do a lot of research into that, because I know there are people out there that do know those things. And if I get it wrong, I'll hear about it. Readers will email me and say, you said this would do this, and it really won't. And so I try to get that stuff as on point as I can without being an expert.
Well, it was interesting. I highlighted things so that way I could go back and research it later to see what they look like and everything. I too have a black thumb. I tell people I'm the angel of death for horticulture, because I can kill a cactus. So it was interesting that you.
Yeah, I thought it's interesting. For the most part, poisons are used by women in the real world. It's almost entirely the woman's choice of a weapon, because it doesn't require any strength. It's not gory, it's not difficult, it's actually really easy, and you don't have to be around when the effects take place, because they could take place days later. So for Teddy to be someone that is, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything here because this is in the beginning of the book, but for Teddy as a man to be choosing poison was a unique twist on that.
I actually really like that you did that. You took some things that, I love the way that you've kind of flipped things with all your books, that you don't go in the way that we would think, and you take the unusual path. It's so clever that you do that.
Yeah, I think when you're a thriller writer, your thriller readers are really sophisticated, and they read a lot of thrillers and they figure them out, and they're looking for those clues. They want to figure it out. So there's a game. It's always a game being played between the writer and the reader, and whether I can outsmart you or you're going to outthink me. And so I play the game in my head as I'm writing. I think, as a reader, what would I think? And then I don't do that. Whatever I think is going to happen, I don't do. And then I don't do the next 5 things either. And I take the alternate. It just has to make sense in the story. It can't come out of nowhere, because that's cheating. It has to be there. So that's where it requires the real work.
Did you know the ending when you were writing it?
Never. I never know.
I will say this, and I'm not going to give this spoiler away, but there is one, speaking of throwing people off, there is one part of the book that I expected it to go one way, and it didn't. And I was actually a little bit upset. I was like, because I really had, I was rooting and thinking it was going to go a certain way. And then just when I thought you were going to zig, you zagged.
That's what I try to do. I mean, I know that thriller readers are going to pick up on the clues, because they always do. And especially in my writing, because it's sparse and it's not too wordy and descriptive. If I say something, it's probably important. So otherwise it's not in the book. And so if I say something really specific, like Joe put the photograph in the desk drawer, that's so specific, a thriller reader is going to know immediately that photograph is important, and it's important that it's in the desk drawer and somebody's going to find it or whatever. And I know that you know that. So I'm going to do something you don't expect. So you think somebody's going to find that photograph, but instead I burn the house down and the photograph goes with it. So that photograph that you just thought was important, now it's important because it got burned up, not because somebody found it. So it's kind of I know you're going to figure out some of it, but you may not see how it all plays out.
And that's what made it fun. That's what made it just such a ride. And that's what I've told everybody after I read it. I said, oh my God, this is such a fun ride. Because you just don't know which way you're going to go. And then when you come to the end, you're like, oh, wow, And then I had to remind myself that the characters weren't real. So I can go to sleep.
They're not real. Yeah, they're definitely not real.
I was up to the wee hours of the morning. It's one of those books you just can't put down. You start reading, And I was starting to get drowsy because I bought one of these the love sacks, those gigantic beanbag chairs, but it's not beanbag, it's filled with memory foam. And that thing is a human sedative. I mean, you just lay in it and you're like, and so it's all comfy and I'm reading and I'm getting sleepy. I'm like, no, I can't go to sleep. I got to wake up. So I went to my bedroom, and I rarely read in my bed, rarely. But I took your book with me, and I laid there, had it laying this way so I could read it. And I was just, I couldn't put it down. It was so good.
Thank you. That's the best thing to ever hear as a writer, that you can't there's a page turner, that you have to just keep turning the pages. I mean, that's our job, is to keep you that engrossed that you have to keep turning the pages.
Let's see. I'm just checking to see if I have any other questions from anybody. Oh, Emily says that the ending surprised her as well.
That's good. That's good. I hate it when I figure out the ending. It's always a little disappointing, actually. I want the writer to be smarter than me.
Right.
So I want the writer to be ahead of me, and several steps ahead of me, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because that's their job. It's what they do for a living. They're supposed to be able to craft a story that is not going to be easy to figure out.
Yeah. But, it wasn't like when some writers do it, where they throw a wrench into it and it just comes totally at a left field. You did it in a way that you threw us off, but you did it in a smart way, where it's not like you get all upset, like, where did this character come from? And now this person, who'd never been in the book, now this person did it, And so I really loved how you did that. I mean, like I said, it was just so well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I'm so excited for you. I'm proud of your success. And, I'm excited to see more exciting things coming from you.
I'll keep writing.
And then, of course, do you know if we have a date yet on For Your Own Good, when it's going to be released?
The TV show?
Mm-hmm.
No, not yet. I don't know.
Well, regardless, I can't wait. Like I said, those of you who haven't read it yet, definitely buy the book. Give it to your friends. Go ahead and buy early Christmas presents for everybody. Give it to everybody you know. Give it to your mailman. I'm sure your mailman would love a copy too. If you haven't read her other books, definitely read those too, because they're all wonderful. And I'm really excited to have you. It's just been such an honor and a thrill, Samantha. You're a hoot. You're definitely.
I bring my whole family with me, apparently.
I know, which is awesome. Now, did your mom read the book to you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
She reads all your stuff?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Definitely.
wonderful. Your family's all supportive of you. That's the best thing. I've actually had some people where they said their families don't read their books.
Oh really? Oh yeah. Okay.
So that means that you need to
if I wrote in a different genre, they might not. I mean, they're thriller readers, so they're going to read it. If I were writing historical romance, I'm pretty sure my brother would have nothing to do with that. So,
don't say that. Linus, we know you're going to read the romance stuff, even if she writes it, right? Because you're a good big brother.
If I tell him he's in it, he will.
Well, it's very in right now. A lot of men are hooked on Bridgerton, so
it's true.
It's very okay. Look at Linus. I knew it. I don't even know you, and I knew you would do it. He said he probably would. You've restored our faith. Okay. What a great guy. Well, anybody else have anything else you wanted to add for Samantha? Because we're coming down to the end. I always like to keep it right at an hour, so that way I'll be respectful of everyone's time. All right, Samantha, I hope you'll come back and visit us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I will definitely come back.
Oh, that's awesome, because we're going to hold you to it.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
We're going to do a campaign. Well, and I'm excited for you. Congratulations on all your success. All 3 books are fabulous.
Thank you.
We definitely want you back. So make sure when you come out with the next one to come visit us, okay?
Definitely, definitely. Thank you all so much. I hope you enjoy the books. Absolutely.
And in the meantime, everybody stay safe, especially you, Samantha, because we want to see more from you.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And for Samantha's brother and mother, thank you so much for joining us too. Special treat. And y'all have a great night. And next week we have, well, I'm sorry, in 2 weeks, on the 24th, we have actress Meg Tilly, author Meg Tilly is going to be joining us the 24th. So very exciting too. So if y'all want to join us, just follow us on Eventbrite. I always post them there. All right, everybody. Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of the night. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.